Hello, welcome to this session on generative AI and new developments about AI in education. So we are going to discuss what are some of the implications of generative AI and what is upcoming. As you might know, some of our previous digital education outlook was about the frontiers of technology in education, and started to look at a lot of different types of tools, and including AI in education. It was actually before the public emergence of generative AI, and so we're going to talk about that, but also to continue the discussion about more other types of AI in education. And for that, we have a wonderful panel today, and you can come and join me on screen with Dragan Gašević, who is a professor at Monash University in Australia. Vicky Charisi, who works at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission and on the Digital Education Unit. Professor Sanna at the University of Oulu in Finland, and Professor Allison Littlejohn, who is the director of the UCL Knowledge Lab in the United Kingdom in England. So thank you all for joining us. We're going to actually explore different types of applications of AI listening to you. And so I'll give you the floor, and then we'll have a discussion for everyone. If you have some questions, put them in the question and answer in the platform, and we'll try to answer them afterwards. So just put them as they come. And we're going to start with Dragan, and then Vicky, who are going to talk more about generative AI, and then we'll also expand with other forms of AI and talk about self-regulated learning and other applications with Sanna and Allison. So Dragan, let's start with you, and you have the floor.
Thanks so much, Stefan, for the nice introduction, and also for the honor of the invitation. I'm really happy to talk to you today about generative AI. Just make a relatively brief introduction about some promises that generative AI offers to education, but at the same time also we need to be mindful of some of the issues, because as much as it is an AI, it is also not without flaws. So most of you probably already are quite familiar with the notion of generative AI, but it has a relatively simple idea behind it. It aims to generate data in response to certain textual prompts. Typically, that data that we are building upon comes from a range of different large sources. Imagine the whole web and many other types of information, textual, video, or any types of images, source code in programming languages, and so on. The idea is then to generate different types of text, images, programming code, and so on. So the idea is very simple. Many of you know ChatGPT or GPT, whole family of large language models. Midjourney is also quite popular for generation of images, DALL-E 2, and many other types of technologies. We've been now about 12 months into the hype, although generative AI by itself as a concept is not only 1 year old. What we've seen in terms of some particular promises that I'm going to highlight 4 key things. Number one is that large language models, and by extension generative AI, are really good or offering some interesting promise for supporting learners. A popular example that emerged earlier this year is presented by Khan Academy. Khan Academy is a popular website and organization that offers a range of different resources that are typically available to support STEM education and beyond, usually in K-12 sector, but also can be used even in other types of levels. They developed and promoted their Kamigo, which is a chatbot which supports students' tutoring, but it's not really trying to give them the answers. It's trying to guide them to find these answers by themselves. And at the same time is also helping students to promote some of their creativity or unlock that creative potential in them. While we've seen in the past also different types of chatbots, and in the past we also seen in intelligent tutoring systems dialogue-based intelligent tutoring systems. The thing that this chatbot is demonstrating is how much more cost-effective is these days to develop a chatbot of this type of this kind, and also to be quite effective in many types of aspects. We've also seen that generative AI and its most popular instances of large language models are offering some promise for teachers. There are many different types of things that are out there. I'm going to just highlight the work that Anisha Bakaria is doing at the University of Queensland, who has developed a whole taxonomy and a set of practical examples of how different large language models can be prompted to generate a range of different resources to support also teachers in different administrative tasks, in different other types of things that are related to management of their teaching, as well as of their classroom activities. So this is just a very simple example how ChatGPT can be prompted to generate crosswords, and then these types of crosswords can then be imported easily into the specialized tools that can then visualize these crosswords that can be easily then used in the classroom. So some very simple tools that can be used by almost any teacher. Generative AI and large language models also have a really lots of promise to support automated feedback. So in a way, to complement the educator, as well as in some situations, potentially to replace it. So we did a study earlier this year in which we analyzed ChatGPT and also then followed that up with the analysis of GPT-4 to see the extent to which large language models can be prompted to provide feedback on written products. We specifically looked into different types of essays and project documentation students were generating. We found that the readability of these type of outputs or feedback was much higher than we were getting in the genuine human-generated examples. Also, we found that GPT can provide feedback even on the process and self-regulation levels. However, it does not necessarily always identify the same types of points of improvement or praise for the students as the human. So we see that as a potential that a place that can be also complementing the teacher to identify additional points that can be suggested to the students. We've been also working on different types of writing analytics that support students to improve the quality of their written products by using different types of writing genre. Specifically, we are looking in different types of scaffolding tools that are helping students to use more powerful rhetorical moves. So this is one of these types of tools where we can actually nicely highlight different types of integration levels that learners are having when they are producing different types of texts. And we already see that the quality of students' written products can be considerably improved with these type of tools. This is the next frontier that I'm really most passionate about these days, is how we can generate by the use of different types of data about what is going on in the classroom, digital or physical, something which we call data comics. So we do all these different types of analytics, but instead of presenting some complex charts and statistics to the students, we can actually tell them a story. This is done with the support of the use of Midjourney, which goes basically from prompting with a text to generate images. And we are also seeing this as a really promising thing that can help the learners engage much more deeply with different types of data rather than actually creating a potential barrier of the data literacy. Then assessment in the age of AI is a really big thing. But we've seen a significant shift to the dark side of assessment, that kind of dark side of the moon of assessment, which is emphasizing process measurement. We've seen lots of potential to use different types of data about online interactions of the students with different types of technologies that can then give us the insights into the cognitive, metacognitive, motivational, or affective types of processes that students are engaging into. Those are the 4 promises. I want to touch on a few issues in generative AI. First one is that we really need to grow AI literacy. Many of you probably read about the lawyer in the US who messed up, used ChatGPT to produce court filings. Court filings contain lots of made-up court cases that were cited. Eventually, judge found the lawyer in contempt and fined them. This is not because probably the lawyer had a malicious intention, but probably because they were not quite aware of the issues that are associated with ChatGPT and all the imperfections, like, for example, that generative AI doesn't have a notion of truthfulness. And therefore, whatever it spits out is not necessarily much reliable, and we can never trust it 100% that it's providing reliable information. The other thing is, like with any AI that is based on large types of data, contains bias. This is an example we recently played with, where we prompted Midjourney to generate patriotic dog who is a superhero. And you can see the notion of a dog is very masculine, very, very American type of a dog. And it basically reflects what types of data it is based on, the Midjourney itself. And also then we can imagine in what other situations these type of biases may be easily perpetuated. There's another big challenge for all of us to grapple with, and that is that writing itself, while it can be supplemented in certain situations, replaced with the use of generative AI. Writing is such an important and powerful learning tool. So then what happens when much of that tool is offloaded to generative AI? What are the long-term consequences for the learner's development of the future if we are depriving them from the opportunity to extensively use this type of a tool? So what I want to basically conclude on is that we really need to broaden our understanding of learning with, about, and despite generative AI. I think it's a really important question. And the other important thing is that we really cannot say and expect that AI is going to go away. But instead, in education, we really need to lead the change. Otherwise, AI will be done to us. And instead, we want to be active agents of change and leaders of that change to create the generative AI that we need for education, rather to actually use something that is done to us. Thanks so much.
Thank you so much, Dragan. You've given us some very interesting new insights, and you know, I really will be interested to see when the dashboard will be replaced by comics. So I hope this happens very soon. So thank you so much. Let's continue with Vicky. And so you have the floor.
Thank you very much, Stefan. It is a great pleasure to be with all of you today. I'm going to share my screen. Okay. Can you see my screen now?
Yes, we can see it well.
Okay, great. So today I would like to give an overview of an experimental study that we are currently running at the Joint Research Center of the European Commission. And our purpose is to understand the impact of generative AI in high school students and their educators. This study is a collaborative project between two units, the EU Policy Lab and my unit on digital economy. And I would like to make a disclaimer that what I'm going to present today is not an official position of the European Commission. So at the European Commission, there is a very large network of policy DGs and our DG, which is not a policy DG, that discuss about artificial intelligence and the role that artificial intelligence has in different sectors. And our unit, our DG, the Joint Research Center, is the center that provides independent scientific evidence to support policy making. So our research connects directly to policy needs that the European Commission might have. The motivation of our research started when, 1 year ago, when ChatGPT was released, and we saw some schools, for example, in New York, that decided to block it, to ban it from their classrooms. And it was not only New York, there were several instances where several countries that were very skeptical about this. But we believe that banning is not an effective and long term. So students still, they need to have access to this, because if not, they do not learn how to use effectively this kind of tools, and this might lead to consequences that are not desirable in education. So what we did, it was first we conducted a systematic literature review. It is a fact that we took we look at the literature in several instances since then. So this was not I mean, in the beginning we had very a small number of especially empirical studies. Now this number is increasing fast, and this what I'm going to present today is this literature review was conducted about a month ago, with where we found 463 papers talking about generative AI in education and large language models, etc. Most of the studies, however, are position papers or review papers with a very small percentage of empirical studies. And from the subset of empirical studies, we have mainly studies that focus on higher education and not on K-12 education. So for us, it was very interesting to see what is the impact in high school students. So we focused on the age group of 14 to 16 years old students in different countries. I will explain later. And our main research question was about the impact of large language models tools on critical thinking and problem solving for students. Also, we were very much interested in understanding their current practices. So if they use the tools at home or at school, etc., and also their attitudes and their educators' attitudes about the tools in a pre and post intervention setting. So before they interact with our tool and after the interaction. So I'm going to describe the methodology briefly. So first, we wanted to understand how educators want to use or might use these kind of tools in their practices. We conducted workshops with educators, and we had co-design activities with them. We tried to see if they use it also in their classroom. And then following this, and we focused also in different tasks that they would believe that generative AI might be useful for them. Then based on the results of these workshops, we tried also to understand the students' attitudes. So we conducted workshops with students and small surveys in classrooms in order to understand their practices. Then we applied our experimental intervention. So this was one session of 90 minutes intervention where the students would try out different kind of AI tools. I will explain in a minute. In the classroom with our guidance. Afterwards, we tried also to understand their attitudes, if we had any change in form of workshop. And afterwards, the last part was co-design activities with teachers, where we presented some of the results of the students and the positions of the students about this. And for this one, for the last workshop, we focused mainly on the evaluation. I'm going to describe the experimental intervention, and here I want to say that we designed we used GPT-4, and we designed our own interface because we wanted to collect the data. The project went through the ethical board of the Joint Research Center, and we designed different kind of AI tools to support the same tasks. We had a controlled treatment where the AI tool would provide the answer in task-related questions by the students. The second one would provide again the answer, but with some explanations. And the third one would provide the answer, but would not provide the answer, I'm sorry, this is what we call Socratic, but would provide guiding questions to the students in order for the students to come up to the answer. So what we tried here is to apply the same, exactly the same tasks in these three conditions, and then we would make the comparisons. So first, we had different kind of tasks that focused mainly on problem solving and on critical thinking through argumentation. So this task, for example, I'm going to bring some examples, was to, we asked the students to guess how many coins there are in this container. And then we tested first their automation bias. So there is research that indicates that people in some cases tend to trust more an AI tool than a human, and we wanted to see if this is the case with our subjects. And then we compared their guess, the students' guesses, and the perceived accuracy of the treatment versus the control group. The second, another example was the writing essay. So we asked them to write a short essay of one paragraph on the topic of social media and teenagers. And here we used the Socratic versus non-Socratic method in order to understand if this has any impact, if this tool would have any impact in the writing of the students. And lastly, we asked the students we provided some statements to the students, and we asked to verify or to indicate if, to detect if there is incorrect information. This was based on their current curriculum, I have to tell. So for the second task, for the writing, we wanted to understand also if the evaluation, how the evaluation of those essays would look like if we compare evaluations from their teachers and evaluations from tools, large language model-based tool. And what we did, we took the rubrics from OECD resources and the Washington State University. We provide this to the teachers and to the tool, and then we compared the findings. So I have to tell that this study is still ongoing. So here today I won't present results. So the results will come in a couple of months from now. But I'm going to give an overview of the setting. So our aim is to reach 180 students, and currently we have completed the study in one school with 68 students of this age, 14 to 16 years old. Our goal is to reach 65 educators in Belgium and in Spain. And the data that we collect is the responses of the survey, demographic, task performance, their attitudes, etc. Log data of the interaction, for us, it's really important to understand and to study how students interact with the tool given the different treatments that we provide to them, and then anonymous material from the workshops. So today I'm going only to give a snapshot of something that was really interesting for me during the workshop, and I hope that this we can discuss later. So when we asked the students if they use the tools, almost all of them, they told us that the ones that they had access to the tool, that they use the tool either for their homeworks, but also sometimes at the school. While when we asked them if they would be happy their assignments to be assessed by a tool like ChatGPT, if they would be happy with this, they told us no. So they prefer their assignments to be assessed by teachers, by their teachers. On the other hand, when we asked the teachers if they use it or if they wanted to use, they were enthusiastic with the idea to have a helper for their lesson plans or assessments, etc. But they are not positive for their students to use generative AI in schools. So this is just something that makes me curious to understand more about their attitudes. So currently, the empirical data, generally, not from our studies, the empirical data that we have do not capture the long-term effects. And I think that we really need to think about studies that study these long-term effects of these tools. We want also to see differences between age groups. For our study, we only use 14 and 16 years old students, but we need to understand how these tools affect different age groups. And then what it was impressive when we tried the assessment from the ChatGPT of the students' essays, it was really impressive the quality that we get. But the thing is that we know that behind this there is no understanding, actual understanding. So we might have corrections about the syntax, etc., but semantically we are not sure how to handle this yet. Of course, as it was said beforehand, AI literacy, this is something that we really need to think seriously now regarding generative AI. And we are aware for our study that we have a small sample, and now we are planning a study with 1,000 university students to understand the role of this tool on students of different disciplines and with different types of assignments. I think I will stop here for today, and thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you so much, Vicky, for a very interesting, experimentation, and we really look forward to seeing what's going to come in the next few months. But already, the first observations are extremely useful. So thank you so much for that. So we have already a few questions, but we're going to keep them for the last part of the presentation, and now, I will give the floor to Sanna to talk about self-regulated learning. Sanna, you have the floor.
Thank you. Just sharing my slides.
Really good.
Okay, thank you. I'm a learning scientist, so I understand how people learn. I'm not specialist on AI, but I need AI to make my research more powerful so that we can support future learners and especially augment with AI. Perhaps I need to start with saying that looking this development, which is really fast, like we've seen that decades happen in weeks in this AI development. From the learning scientist perspective, the way we still work with AI in our field is rather narrow, because the very data-driven approach is too simple, let's say so, to help learners. But we are more approaching to understand how this human AI collaboration can combine the best strengths of both humans and machines. These are the timely questions. I think there are millions of timely questions dealing with this AI in education issue, but in general, we are asking what are the skills needed when we are living more and more with AI? How do we balance this traditional role of teachers, teaching, and hybrid instruction, which is in our hands? What it in general mean to collaborate with generative AI agents, for example? And in all, if we are taking technologies and AI to education, what is the future of educational technology? Is this something dealing with educational technology, because ChatGPT is not just like a new educational technology that we have used to do. Anytime we have had something new available technologies, we have implemented our earlier models, and that's kind of progress of educational technology. But now this is something different. But we have serious need for this, serious need for more powerful digital educational technology, simply because the estimation is that there is a huge need for many kind of education and training, and we still use very little on digital forms. And the contribution our research makes is that we want to contribute with theory-guided, evidence-based solutions. I need to remind here first that even though all these power algorithms have in our life and in the future, we human learners still have something that machines don't have. And this is metacognitive ability. We are agentic. AI does not have an agency. We are powerful on expressing ourselves, our affect and emotions. And also, we are flexible in our mind. We are able to operate with our cognition, metacognition, motivation, and emotion in a very dynamic way. So thinking about the human aspect, I think that it is very important exactly right now to think about how we can treasure those unique human skills and competencies, those which machines, AI or generative AI cannot match or replicate. And those are exactly this adaptivity or social skills, ability to interact, empathy, socio-emotional skills, all that agency, able to set goals and implement strategies and so on, and monitor our progress. So the theory I've been working is self-regulated learning theory. It is a strong, old, but still very timely theory, because it explains our ability to kind of experiment with our own learning mind. So we know that, and this theory explains how we are able to monitor our understanding, our cognition, our emotions, and according to this monitor, then change, control or regulate our learning processes, and actually transfer our mental abilities into different skills and competencies. In my lab, we have been especially interested in collaborative learning and how we can bring different technologies to make collaborative learning more powerful. Therefore, we have leveraged this self-regulated learning theory to the group level and developed the concept of socially shared regulation, which is actually rather complex concept and rather multi-layered phenomena which exist in learners while they are working and collaborating. So now comes AI to the scene. What we are very simplified way of explaining what we have been doing in our lab recently is that since data is food for AI, we have been able to use the various kind of data to understand human learners, and especially that phenomena, socially shared regulation and self-regulated learning. This data and AI has been helpful for us as a learner, as a learning scientist and researchers to understand, make it more meaningful what we can find out in the learning process, but also use this data and understanding to help learners and AI to collaborate so that we could develop solutions for learners to be more adaptive themselves. So using learning scientist terms, we kind of translate AI to socially shared regulation for evidence-based educational technology, step by step, hopefully. So yes, data is important, but now we have in our hands more data than ever about human learners because of abilities to collect multimodal data. And during the past years, we have been working in our lab, but also together with our international collaborators to step-by-step evidence that indeed different data channels using computer locks, eye tracking, physiological sensors, video data, and so on, we are able to understand something much better than we were able to understand earlier. And now we are able to use this data about learning processes to understand learners, but also step-by-step evidence something what is not visible for learners themselves, nor for teachers to help and contribute in students' learning processes. And step by step, this evidence has led us to proceed towards human AI collaboration. So on one hand, to use AI-based methods to predict, model some kind of critical processes, tendencies in learning processes, also those very problematic situations, and anticipate and predict them. But now, very recently, of course, we are also thinking that how we can take this understanding towards generative AI. And this is the stage actually where we are currently. And the question we are presenting is that how can findings, what we have in our hands, be leveraged to augmenting learners to recognize when and how to strategically deploy regulatory strategies. So in the other ones, help them to be better learners themselves. So a very simple demonstration about how this human AI collaboration could help. So we know that it is human own agency which makes them learn. You need your active mind. But we also know that it is very hard for learners to understand what is wrong and what are the problematic issues, and also very difficult for teachers to understand what happens while students are learning during the learning process. But now we are able to collect data about those learning processes, for example, why students are working in group inquiries. And therefore, we can understand more about their learning, but we can also use this data to teach machines to help and understand and predict, and also create opportunities, for example, with AI agents to collaborate with learners themselves and help when needed. So thinking about this human AI collaboration, very early work, which is currently in our team, slowly progressing, but also in our research networks, is, for example, thinking how we are able to take AI as a one team member. For example, how chatbot agent can provoke metacognitive monitoring, something what is very important in this self-regulation, and share these regulation processes rather than in a traditional way prompt direct answers when needed. Or perhaps we are also thinking about other realities, how we can create more opportunities for education and learning, creating, for example, solutions, take these solutions towards metaverse, and perhaps trying to use AI algorithms to analyze individual learner data, and then generate tailored educational content, for example, so that students are able to explore some complex phenomena according to their needs, for example, in virtual reality. But I think that it is important to take steps towards hybrid intelligence, which combines strengths from both humans and machines, so that they can collaborate to learn from each other, which is very different than our very traditional AI. And that's why we are currently working for the next 5 years in our university in a hybrid intelligence research program. We have a research agenda for the next 5 years, where we are bringing experts from data and algorithms, those who are working with multi-reality, and we human scientists who understand learning processes. And hopefully we are able to make steps towards different kind of implication, especially in education. But my final point is here eventually to remind us that AI and adaptive learning technologies, whatever they are, the major issue for me is that they help learners themselves to be metacognitively aware. We don't want algorithms to be too adaptive as such, but learners to be adaptive. That's the whole point of thinking, taking these technologies and AI towards education, teaching, and learning.
Thank you.
And finally, thank you for this opportunity to talk today.
Thank you, Sanna. So I think that you've very well stressed the importance of using AI as a tool and how it can actually provide also feedback for better learning, so that we look forward also to the new developments in this area. Thank you so much. So now I'm passing the floor to Allison.
Hi there. So I will be continuing this idea of not only thinking about the AI, but the human as well. In my presentation, I'm going to slightly shift the focus and to think about professionals and how professionals learn. So that's going to be a slightly different take on what we do. Can you see the slides?
Yeah, if you can put on the full presentation and swap the view.
Yeah.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
Right, thanks.
Okay, so what I want to start with is earlier this year, the UK government hosted an event which, can you see the slides okay there? Is it?
Yeah, it went back to slide view rather than full view, but
yeah, would it be okay like that?
Yeah, okay.
So the UK Prime Minister, Rishi Sunak, hosted an event, the first AI Safety Summit at Bletchley Park. And this was about the effects of AI. And so he interviewed Elon Musk, and this is what Elon Musk was saying about AI and the future of work. And these kinds of comments tend to make the headlines. There was another BBC report, which was earlier in the year. This is from a Goldman Sachs report, and it said AI could replace the equivalent of 300 million jobs. But what the report actually said is that when we have any kind of innovation, it tends to lead to people changing what they do at work and also the development of new occupations. So this is what I want to focus on today. What does AI actually mean in terms of not just jobs, but also how professionals learn? So this KPMG report that you can see here concurs that although AI impacts work, it's not going to result in the loss of all jobs. It actually changes work. It triggers the creation of new work practices and new roles in 3 broad ways, which I just want to think about just now. And I'm thinking about all different types of AI, not just generative AI. So first of all, it does replace what professionals do. It replaces some professions or some tasks. For example, prominently in the news, we've seen autonomous vehicles replace drivers, warehouse robots replace people, and assembly line robots do things that technical people used to do. And in terms of generative AI, then it's now being used to do some of the quite mundane tasks like writing notes and so on. So it is changing the way that people work. AI is also extending what people can do at work, extending professional capability. For example, Technologists are supported by VR and AR. This has happened for a while. Rescue workers can get support from autonomous robots. And this is a picture of a drone surveying a forest fire. Surgeons are now guided by robots as well. There's a picture of soft tissue surgery. And generative AI is also helping people in the medical profession in terms of their writing. So the third way is accelerating new forms of knowledge production. And I think this is particularly important. New ways of meaning making. For example, cancer diagnosis has been very prominent in the news. Climate modeling, protein structure modeling used to be my job, but crystallographers are now being replaced by apps like Google AlphaFold, which are very good at looking at patterns and structures. And again, generative AI is affecting all of these different professions as well in terms of thinking about how ideas come together and how knowledge can be brought together in new and different ways. So is this all a complete transformation? What I want to argue here is that actually a lot of these changes are not digital transformation. They're things like digitization, which is basically doing what we have always done, but doing it in a more digital way, or digitalization, where there's some adaptation, but it's not a complete transformation. Digital transformation is more about the creation of new values and new ways of doing things. And we're not seeing that through all of these examples. And that's particularly true when we think about how AI is changing professional learning. So if we think about professional learning and how it's being changed by AI, not just by AI which is applied to education, but also how AI is applied to work. There's an opportunity here for us to understand how professionals are learning as they're doing work. And this opportunity is not so prevalent in the literature and the kinds of applications of AI to education. Some of the applications are focusing on the idea of personalized learning. It's really good that we can scale learning by personalizing it. Predictive AI, as has been said, it's already identifying students who are struggling. This is not new, but learners might develop this dependency on AI, and especially when we're adopting generative AI for writing, because part of the learning process, part of the way of putting new pieces of knowledge together is to write and to help think about ontology. That's a whole part of the thinking process. So we really have to think about how these different types of AI are used to support learning. The rapid development of AI is also accelerating the need for professionals to understand how AI works so that they can then reflect on how they're learning. And there are lots of risks that students will overly rely on AI to do assignment work. And that's even true of professional learners as well. But AI is also helping in terms of connecting people. And we know already there are applications that connect people with skill sets, with job vacancies, for example. But this shift means that recruitment decisions are more by the systems themselves rather than by the humans. And the argument here is that human understanding of some tacit skills, for example, is very important when doing recruitment. Competencies tested by AI systems are important as well. So we can think about when people are actually doing work, how do we test what competencies that they have? But we need to consider the human motivation. Otherwise, the professionals themselves might engage in some kinds of unseen resistances. For example, we know that sometimes people in teaching profession might try to resist some of the new policy decisions. for the right reasons, because from their expertise, they don't think these policy decisions are the right things to do. So these kinds of resistances are actually important. We must make sure that they're not put into the background by using AI. And finally, extending ways of knowing. So we know that businesses are already simulating risky work tasks to help professionals to learn. And this is really important that we can do this, but professionals have to learn how to apply these practical skills to the work. And that's something we have to think about when we're adapting AI into professional learning. There's multimodal experiences. In the very near future, we'll be thinking a lot about how people learn through digital touch. And in fact, my colleagues, Kerry Jewett and others here at the Knowledge Lab are doing research into digital touch and what that means to meaning making. Digital scent also is a really important way of learning. Although we do run the risk of reliance on virtual, but there's lots of opportunities to really rethink how we can learn. So back to this idea of digitalization, or digital transformation. We have to really think about which of these are simply digitizing what we've done in the past and which are real digital transformation. And I want to finally give you an example of work that we're doing here at the Knowledge Lab with professionals who are scientists, researchers working in astronomy, and how we're trying to move them from digitization and digitalization to real transformation. So along with some of my colleagues, Louise Chisholm, Eileen Kennedy, Francisco Duran del Fierro, and funded by the UK Research and Innovation Council, we're working with a number of astronomers researching how they learn to use new digital research infrastructures. For example, we've been working with these astronomers who are using the Square Kilometre Array, which is a state-of-the-art radio telescope, and it's located in Australia and South Africa. This telescope is transforming how radio astronomers work. So rather than gathering data themselves, the array of telescopes is gathering exascale data. There's a team of people and apps who are cleaning and packaging the data for them to analyze. And so using this type of methodology has benefits in terms of having huge amounts of data and being able to do analysis that before would have been absolutely impossible. But we know from the research with them, we're doing a digital ethnography, that some of their systemic and really valued practices are changing, and that's leading to an identity crisis for them. Also, the astronomers feel they don't have so much control over the research design, sparking a creativity crisis. So these extended changed relationships between the astronomers and the computational systems they use are having a profound effect on how they work and learn. They need to be able to trust the engineers and data scientists who are building the telescopes. And although the kind of professional development that they have focuses very much on the knowledge and the practice, we also have to think about these social issues as well and provide ways for people to be able to develop their skills and think about their practices and also their identities. So this is one of the things that we're working on just now. That can be done quite simply through having some kind of workshops or ways for people to be able to collaborate or to have dialogue on what new roles are needed, or how are their professions changing, or how do they demonstrate their contributions to the professions when they're changing so rapidly. And we can actually apply AI and generative AI to ways of thinking about this. And this is really important because in the very near future, AI is going to really change the relationship between the human and the computational infrastructure. In fact, for science, AI pretty soon might be finding hypotheses and the scientists will be investigating those hypotheses rather than it being the other way around. So I just want to end here with a comment by Sherry Turkle. This was last week at the Harvard Kennedy School Conference on AI and Democracy. This is a comment that Sherry made, which I think is something that's really important for us to think about. And when we think about how professionals learn for work, we have to think not only about how the interrelationship between humans and technology can focus around new knowledge that's needed or new forms of practice, but also some of the social factors like identity. So thank you very much for this opportunity to share ideas.
Thank you, Allison. So and thank you to all the panelists. So if you want to join, so there are a few questions that were directed to your presentation specifically. So unfortunately, we're reaching the end of the session, so that I would invite people to write to you directly for this question that are actually specific to your work. There was one that I found that was a very transversal, and which was basically a question asking how will we keep our young students motivated to do the hard stuff while studying a foreign language, etc., when they can outsource that hard stuff using generative AI, And I found that it very well kind of united the different presentation that you've made, from showing some of the challenges, but also how, perhaps we can find some other types of motivations and using it as a tool even to actually get engaged in part of the work. So unfortunately, we don't have time to take questions for this one. We've seen some of them. So again, I really engage people to write to you directly to get some more info about your work. There is some easy ones I can answer, which one is, for example, that the GRC reports are publicly available, so that for those who are asking for that, and that if you want to collaborate with Vicky, just write to her. I should also add that the OECD is going to continue work on generative AI and AI in education, and perhaps continue in the line of work that we've done before, which is more studying the frontiers and how these things are being used. And we had 4 very interesting examples of that today, and so that will certainly be part of our future work and reflections as well. So thank you very much, Allison, Dragan, Sanna, Vicky, and thank you, for the audience for all the questions and engagement. And have a good day, evening, etc. And we look forward to continuing the discussion. Thank you.
Thank you for the organization, Stefan. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
Thank you.
10 minutes as well, and then we close with Anthony. So the question is, do you want me to share questions specifically to each one of you after you present your presentation, or we wait for the 3 presentations and when we open an exchange between the 3 of you?